Speak, ladies and gentlemen. There is a common belief that the strongest people are those who always know what to say, but real strength is nepos, measured by the number of words you speak. Itapos, measured by your ability to know when your words will build something and when they will only destroy it. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, uncertainty, or fear. In reality, silence is one of the greatest signs of emotional intelligence, self-control, and wisdom. Every conversation gives you two choices. You can react or you can respond. Reacting is immediate, emotional, and often driven by pride. Responding requires patience, awareness, and purpose. And sometimes, the wisest response is no response at all. Many of life's biggest regrets come from words spoken in moments of anger, frustration, insecurity, or the desire to prove ourselves right. But very few people regret the words they chose not to say. Silence gives you time to think, it protects your peace, it allows truth to reveal itself without unnecessary conflict. The most respected leaders are not those who dominate every conversation, they are the ones who listen carefully, speak with intention, and understand that every word carries weight. They know that silence creates space for understanding, for learning, and for better decisions. Today, will explore 5 situations where staying silent is nepos, a sign of weakness. It is a demonstration of extraordinary strength. These are moments that can protect your relationships, your reputation, your future, and most importantly, your peace of mind, because sometimes the loudest statement you can make is saying nothing at all. Anger is one of the most powerful emotions we experience. It arrives quickly, demands immediate action, and convinces us that speaking right now is the only way to defend ourselves. In those moments, our minds become focused on winning, proving a point, or making someone else feel the pain we are feeling. But the problem with anger is that it rarely allows us to think clearly. It magnifies the moment while hiding the consequences. Words spoken in anger often become permanent scars in relationships, even after apologies are made. That is why one of the greatest acts of strength is choosing silence when your emotions are at their highest. Silence is not surrender. It is the decision to place wisdom above impulse. When you become angry, your first responsibility is not to change the other person, it is to regain control of yourself. If you cannot control your own emotions, no amount of convincing or arguing will produce a positive outcome. The strongest people understand that emotional discipline is more valuable than emotional expression. They recognize that a few moments of silence create space between feeling and action. In that space, clarity begins to return. Instead of reacting automatically, you gain the ability to choose a response that reflects your values rather than your temporary emotions. Think about the moments you regret most. They are rarely the times you remain silent. More often, they are the moments when frustration took control and words escaped before wisdom had a chance to speak. A harsh sentence can undo years of trust. One careless comment can damage a friendship, a marriage, or a professional relationship. While broken objects can often be repaired, broken trust requires time, patience, and consistent effort to rebuild. That is why silence during anger is an investment in your future. It protects what matters most before emotions have the chance to destroy it. Silence also gives you the opportunity to understand what is truly happening beneath your anger. Many times, anger is only the surface emotion. Underneath it may be disappointment, fear, insecurity, exhaustion, or hurt. If you respond only to the anger, you address the symptom instead of the cause. But when you pause and remain silent, you give yourself the chance to identify what you are really feeling. Speak. Speak this. Deeper understanding allows you to communicate honestly instead of aggressively. It transforms conflict from a battle to be won into a problem to be solved. People often mistake silence for weakness because our culture celebrates quick reactions and sharp comebacks. Yet anyone can lose control, anyone can raise their voice or say something hurtful in the heat of the moment. What requires real courage is remaining calm when every emotion inside you demands the opposite. Self-control is not the absence of emotion, it is the ability to keep your emotions from controlling your behavior. That kind of strength earns lasting respect because it demonstrates maturity, confidence, and stability. Remaining silent when you are angry does not mean ignoring problems or pretending nothing happened. It means choosing the right time to address them. Conversations held after emotions have settled are far more productive than arguments fueled by frustration. When your mind is calm, you listen better, think more clearly, and express yourself with greater purpose. Your words become solutions instead of weapons. You begin to focus less on proving someone wrong and more on finding a path forward that benefits everyone involved. Every difficult situation offers you a choice. You can let anger decide your next words, or you can let wisdom guide your response. That choice shapes your character more than the conflict itself. People may not always remember what started the disagreement, but they will remember how you handled it. Choosing silence in moments of anger is not about avoiding confrontation. It is about ensuring that when you finally speak, your words reflect your best self instead of your worst emotions. Over time, this habit builds trust, strengthens relationships, and develops the kind of inner discipline that becomes a foundation for lasting leadership and personal growth. Not every argument deserves your attention, and not every opinion deserves your response. One of the greatest lessons you can learn in life is that your peace of mind is far more valuable than the temporary satisfaction of proving someone wrong. There will always be people who challenge your beliefs, criticize your decisions, or attempt to provoke you with words designed to trigger an emotional reaction. Their goal is often not to understand you, but to pull you into an endless cycle of conflict where no one truly wins. In those moments, silence becomes one of the most powerful choices you can make. It is not an admission of defeat. It is a declaration that your time, energy, and focus are too valuable to waste on conversations that lead nowhere. Meaningless arguments usually begin with emotion instead of reason. They are fueled by pride, ego, misunderstanding, or the desire to be right at any cost. When someone approaches a conversation with the intention of attacking rather than understanding, no amount of logic or evidence will change their mind. The more you explain yourself, the more they look for another point to challenge. Instead of finding solutions, the discussion becomes a competition to see who can speak louder, criticize harder, or refuse to back down. Participating in these arguments only drains your emotional energy and leaves you feeling frustrated long after the conversation has ended. Wise people recognize that not every invitation deserves acceptance. Just because someone invites you into an argument does not mean you have to participate. Imagine walking through your day carrying a limited amount of energy. Every unnecessary debate consumes a portion of that energy. Energy that could have been invested in your family, your goals, your work, or your personal growth. Every minute spent defending yourself against meaningless criticism is a minute taken away from building the life you truly want. Protecting your peace sometimes means protecting your attention. There is also a difference between healthy disagreement and pointless conflict. Speak. Healthy disagreement encourages learning, respect, and mutual understanding. Both people listen as much as they speak, and even when they disagree, they leave with greater knowledge or appreciation for another perspective. Meaningless arguments, however, are driven by the need to win rather than the desire to grow. In those situations, silence is often more effective than the most convincing speech. It communicates confidence because it shows that your self-worth does not depend on convincing everyone to agree with you. People who constantly seek conflict often expect an emotional reaction. They may provoke, insult, exaggerate, or misrepresent your words simply to keep the argument alive. When you refuse to react, you remove the fuel that keeps the conflict burning. Your silence breaks the cycle and demonstrates emotional maturity. It shows that you are in control of your emotions rather than allowing someone else to control them for you. This kind of self-discipline is not easy, but it is one of the clearest signs of inner strength. Choosing silence also allows you to focus on what truly matters. Success rarely comes from winning arguments. It comes from investing your attention in meaningful action. While others spend hours debating, complaining, and criticizing, you can spend that same time learning, improving, creating, and moving closer to your goals. Your results will always speak louder than your responses. People eventually recognize the difference between those who are busy proving themselves and those who are busy building themselves. There will always be voices that doubt you, misunderstand you, or try to distract you from your purpose. If you respond to every criticism, every rumor, or every negative opinion, you will spend your life chasing approval instead of pursuing excellence. Silence gives you the freedom to stay focused on your mission. It reminds you that your value is not determined by the opinions of others, but by the consistency of your actions and the integrity of your character. By refusing to engage in meaningless arguments, you preserve your energy, strengthen your emotional resilience, and create more space for the conversations and relationships that truly deserve your attention. In a world where opinions are formed in seconds and shared instantly, one of the rarest qualities is the patience to wait until the truth is fully understood. Many people feel pressure to speak first, respond immediately, or reach conclusions before they have enough information. They believe that quick answers make them appear confident or knowledgeable. In reality, wisdom is not measured by how fast you speak, but by how carefully you think. Choosing to remain silent until you have all the facts is a sign of maturity, discipline, and respect for the truth. It protects you from making unnecessary mistakes and allows your words to carry greater credibility when you finally decide to speak. Every situation has more than one side. What you see at first is often only a small part of a much larger picture. People make decisions based on experiences you may not know about. They carry struggles you cannot see and face pressures you may never fully understand. If you judge a situation based only on appearances or incomplete information, your conclusions can be unfair and inaccurate. Silence gives you the opportunity to observe, ask questions, and listen without rushing to assumptions. It reminds you that understanding should always come before judgment. Many conflicts grow larger because people react to rumors instead of reality. A single misunderstanding can spread through conversations, workplaces, families, and communities simply because someone spoke before verifying the facts. Once words are released, they cannot be taken back. False accusations, careless assumptions, and premature opinions can damage trust, harm reputations, and create wounds that take years to heal. Speak remaining silent while gathering the truth is not hesitation, it is responsibility. It shows that you value accuracy more than attention and fairness more than being the first to respond. Listening is one of the most overlooked forms of strength. Most people enter conversations preparing to speak rather than preparing to understand. They interrupt, defend, and assume they already know the answer before the other person has finished explaining. But when you choose silence, you create space for others to reveal information that might completely change your perspective. Often, what seemed obvious at first becomes far more complex once every voice has been heard. The willingness to listen without interruption demonstrates humility, and humility is essential for making wise decisions. Patience also protects you from emotional reactions that are based on incomplete knowledge. When you hear something surprising or upsetting, your first instinct may be to defend yourself, criticize someone else, or immediately choose a side. But emotions are not always reliable guides to the truth. By pausing and remaining silent, you allow your emotions to settle and your reasoning to become clearer. Instead of reacting to assumptions, you respond to facts. That simple difference can transform a conflict into an opportunity for understanding and resolution. Strong leaders understand that credibility is built over time through thoughtful decisions, not impulsive opinions. They know that every word they speak carries influence. So they choose those words carefully. They ask questions before giving answers. They investigate before making judgments. They recognize that admitting quod e donopos, have enough information yet quod, is not a weakness but a sign of confidence. It takes courage to resist the pressure of immediate responses and trust that a well-informed answer is always more valuable than a rushed one. Life continually presents situations where appearances can be misleading. A personapos. Silence may be mistaken for disrespect when they are actually overwhelmed. A delayed response may look like indifference when it is really careful consideration. A decision that seems wrong today may later reveal wisdom that was hidden at first. By remaining silent until you understand the complete picture, you develop the habit of thinking beyond first impressions. You become someone whose words are respected because they are rooted in truth rather than assumption. Over time, people learn that when you speak, your opinions are balanced, your judgment is fair, and your decisions are guided by wisdom instead of impulse. That kind of character cannot be built through quick reactions. It is built through patience, careful observation, and the discipline to let truth reveal itself before your voice enters the conversation. Every great achievement begins with a vision, but not every vision should be announced the moment it is born. Many people make the mistake of sharing their goals before they have taken the first meaningful step toward achieving them. They talk about the business they will build, the book they will write, the habits they will develop, or the life they plan to create. While there is nothing wrong with having dreams, there is a difference between speaking about success and working toward it. The strongest foundations are built quietly, one disciplined action at a time. That is why one of the wisest habits you can develop is learning to stay silent about your plans until your actions begin to speak for themselves. Talking about your ambitions can create a false sense of accomplishment. The excitement of telling others about your future can temporarily satisfy the same emotional need that real progress provides. You receive encouragement, compliments, and admiration before you have earned the results. This can reduce the urgency to take action because your mind begins to confuse intention with achievement. The conversation becomes a substitute for the work. Speak. But success has never been built on promises. It has always been built on consistent effort, repeated over time. Quiet action will always accomplish more than loud intentions. Not everyone who hears your plans will support them. Some people will doubt you, criticize you, or project their own fears onto your future. Their words may not come from wisdom, but from their own limitations and disappointments. If you allow every opinion to influence your confidence, you may begin questioning goals that once inspired you. By keeping your plans private during the early stages, you protect your vision from unnecessary negativity. You give your ideas the opportunity to grow stronger before exposing them to outside opinions. Just as a seed grows beneath the soil before it becomes visible, your goals often need time to develop before the world sees their value. Silence also keeps your attention where it belongs. Every time you explain your plans, you shift your focus from doing to describing. Instead of investing energy into learning, improving, and creating, you spend it convincing others that your dream is possible. But the people who truly succeed rarely waste time seeking approval. They understand that the most convincing argument is consistent action. They let their work answer the questions, and they allow their results to replace explanations. When your actions speak, they communicate with a level of authority that words alone can never achieve. There is a quiet confidence that comes from disciplined progress. It does not need applause to stay motivated because it is driven by purpose rather than recognition. People who work silently often surprise the world because while others were talking about what they hoped to accomplish, they were steadily making it happen. Every early morning, every late night, every small improvement, and every lesson learned becomes another brick in the foundation of lasting success. These daily choices may go unnoticed for a while, but over time they create results that cannot be ignored. Keeping your plans private does not mean living in isolation or refusing wise advice. There is value in sharing your goals with trusted mentors, supportive friends, or people who genuinely want to help you grow. The difference is that you choose carefully who has access to your vision. You seek guidance, not validation. You look for wisdom, not applause. This protects your focus while allowing you to learn from those who have already walked the path you are beginning. Eventually, there comes a moment when your efforts become visible. Your consistency produces results, your discipline shapes your character, and your actions begin telling the story that words once tried to tell. At that point, explanations become unnecessary because success leaves its own evidence. People notice the change without needing an announcement. They see the growth in your confidence, your habits, your work, and your impact. By allowing your actions to speak before your words, you build a reputation based on substance rather than promises. You become known not for what you intended to do, but for what you quietly accomplished through patience, persistence, and unwavering commitment. There is a powerful temptation in every disagreement to have the final word. We convince ourselves that if we can deliver one more argument, one more explanation, or one more clever response, we will finally prove that we are right. But in many situations, that desire is not driven by wisdom, it is driven by ego. The ego constantly seeks recognition, validation, and victory. It wants to protect its image at all costs, even if that means damaging relationships, prolonging conflict, or sacrificing peace. Learning to stay silent when your ego wants the last word is one of the greatest demonstrations of emotional maturity. It shows that your identity is no longer controlled by the need to win every conversation, but by the desire to live with integrity and self-control. Ego has a way of turning small disagreements into unnecessary battles. A simple difference of opinion becomes a personal attack. A misunderstanding becomes a competition. Instead of trying to understand each other, both people begin defending their pride. They stop listening and start preparing their next response before the other person has even finished speaking. The conversation shifts from solving a problem to protecting an image. In that moment, no one is truly communicating anymore. Both sides are fighting for the satisfaction of being right, while the relationship quietly pays the price. The strongest people understand that not every point needs to be proven. They know that being right is not always the same as doing what is right. There are moments when silence protects something far more valuable than your opinion. It protects trust, respect, and the possibility of future understanding. Choosing not to say one more sentence does not mean you have lost the argument. It means you have won a greater battle, the battle over your own emotions. Self-control is always more impressive than self-importance. Many relationships are damaged not because people disagree, but because neither person is willing to stop. One unnecessary sentence leads to another. One sarcastic remark invites an even harsher reply. What could have ended with mutual respect turns into lingering resentment. Words spoken in pride often stay in people's hearts long after the argument itself has been forgotten. Apologies may repair some of the damage, but they cannot erase every memory. Silence, in those critical moments, has the power to prevent wounds that never needed to exist in the first place. True confidence does not depend on having the final response. Confident people are secure enough to let others think what they want if continuing the conversation serves no meaningful purpose. They do not measure their worth by how many arguments they win or how many people agree with them. Their confidence comes from knowing their values, living with consistency, and allowing their character to speak louder than their opinions. They understand that peace is often worth more than pride, and wisdom is often quieter than ego. There will always be people who misunderstand you, criticize your decisions, or refuse to see your perspective. Trying to convince everyone is an impossible task. The more energy you spend chasing universal approval, the less energy you have for living your purpose. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to walk away with dignity. Your silence communicates that your focus is on growth, not on feeding your ego. It reminds you that your value is not determined by someone else's opinion, but by the principles you choose to live by every day. Every conversation presents an opportunity to choose between pride and wisdom. Pride demands immediate satisfaction, while wisdom considers long-term consequences. Pride wants recognition, but wisdom seeks understanding. Pride insists on speaking, while wisdom knows that silence can sometimes say more than words ever could. When you learn to resist the urge to have the last word, you develop a calm strength that cannot be shaken by criticism or disagreement. You become someone who values relationships over arguments, purpose over pride, and character over temporary victories. In the end, people may forget who spoke last, but they will always remember who demonstrated humility, self-control, and the quiet confidence to let wisdom have the final word. Silence is often misunderstood. Some people see it as weakness, hesitation, or fear, while others believe it is simply the absence of words. But true silence is far more than saying nothing. It is a deliberate choice, guided by wisdom, self-control, and purpose. Speak there is a significant difference between remaining silent because you are afraid to speak and remaining silent because you understand that not every situation requires your voice. One is driven by insecurity, while the other is driven by strength. When silence is guided by wisdom and purpose, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for protecting your peace, strengthening your character, and influencing the people around you. Wisdom teaches us that every word carries weight. Once spoken, words cannot be taken back. They have the power to encourage or discourage, to heal or to wound, to build trust or destroy it. That is why wise people never speak simply because there is an opportunity to do so. They speak because their words will add value, provide clarity, or make a meaningful difference. If their words will only increase confusion, fuel conflict, or satisfy their own pride, they choose silence instead. This kind of restraint is not a sign of weakness. It is evidence of maturity and emotional intelligence. Purpose gives silence its direction. Without purpose, silence can become avoidance. It can become an excuse to ignore problems, refuse responsibility, or remain passive when action is necessary. But purposeful silence is different. It is intentional. It creates space for careful thinking before making important decisions. It allows emotions to settle before difficult conversations. It provides an opportunity to listen deeply rather than reacting impulsively. Silence with purpose is active, not passive, It is a conscious decision to respond at the right time rather than reacting at the wrong time. One of the greatest benefits of purposeful silence is that it transforms the way you listen. Most people enter conversations focused on what they want to say next. They hear words, but fail to understand the emotions, concerns, and experiences behind them. Wise silence changes that. It allows you to pay attention not only to spoken words, but also to tone, body language, and what remains unspoken. As your ability to listen grows, so does your ability to understand people. And when people feel understood, relationships become stronger, trust deepens, and communication becomes far more meaningful. Purposeful silence also protects you from distractions that pull you away from your goals. There will always be criticism, gossip, unnecessary debates, and opinions designed to provoke you. If you respond to every comment and defend yourself against every accusation, your attention becomes scattered. Your energy is consumed by things that have little value. Wise silence reminds you that your mission is more important than your ego. It encourages you to invest your time in meaningful work instead of endless explanations. Over time, your consistency and your actions become a far stronger answer than any argument could ever be. However, wisdom also recognizes that silence is not always the correct choice. There are moments when remaining silent allows injustice to continue, truth to be ignored, or someone in need to stand alone. Purposeful silence never means abandoning your principles. It means knowing the difference between speaking to satisfy your emotions and speaking to serve a greater good. Courage is found not only in knowing when to remain quiet, but also in knowing when your voice is needed. Wisdom helps you recognize that difference and gives you the confidence to act accordingly. As you grow in character, you begin to understand that silence is not about withdrawing from life. It is about becoming intentional with your words. You no longer feel pressured to prove yourself in every conversation or respond to every challenge. Instead, you speak with clarity, kindness, and conviction because your words are supported by thoughtful reflection and genuine purpose. People begin to trust what you say because they know you do not speak carelessly. Your silence creates room for wisdom, and your wisdom gives your words lasting impact. Speak. In the end, the greatest influence does not come from speaking the most. It comes from knowing when your voice will inspire, when your silence will protect, and when your actions will communicate truths that words alone could never fully express. Here's a strong, inspirational ending that fits the tone of your speech. As we come to the end of this message, remember that silence is not about hiding your voice, it is about using it wisely. There will always be moments when people expect you to react, defend yourself, or prove your point. But true strength is not found in speaking the loudest. It is found in knowing when your words will create value and when your silence will protect your peace. Every day, life will present situations that test your patience, your emotions, and your character. In those moments, pause before you speak. Ask yourself whether your words will heal or harm, build or break, inspire or divide. If they cannot make the situation better, have the courage to remain silent. Because silence, guided by wisdom, is never empty. It is filled with self-control, confidence, and purpose. Remember, you do not have to win every argument to win in life. You do not have to explain yourself to everyone to know your worth. Let your actions become your loudest message, your character become your greatest reputation, and your peace become your greatest achievement. The people who leave the deepest impact are not always the ones who speak the most. They are the ones whose words are thoughtful, whose actions are consistent, and whose silence reflects inner strength. So choose your words carefully, guard your peace fiercely, and let wisdom, not emotion, not pride, and not pressure, guide every response you make. Because in the end, your future will not be shaped by how often you spoke. It will be shaped by the moments you had the courage to stay silent, think clearly, act with purpose, and allow your life to speak louder than your words ever could.